Welcome to Team Paya-Math, kung saan tuturuan ko kayo pagyamanin pa ang iyong mga nalalaman tungkol sa math. For our topic for today, let's have this video!
So, in our previous discussion, we already know the formal definition of a sequence. As we all know, we can express or we can look for a sequence given a function or defined by a function. Now, we're going to learn other forms of a sequence. So, let's have first the recursive form of a sequence. So what is recursive form of a sequence? A sequence can be expressed in recursive form. A sequence is said to be in recursive if the first term and a recursive formula are given. So dalawa yung requirement dito, no? So kailangan meron kang first term, defined yung first term mo, alam mo yung first term mo, at alam mo dapat yung recursive formula ng sequence na yon para malaman mo yung mga susunod na terms. Bakit? Ano ba yung recursive formula? A recursive formula is an expression used to determine the nth term of a sequence by using the term that precedes it. Ito yung sinasabi ko sa previous discussion natin na may mga sequences na kung saan madedetermine mo yung terms nila kapag alam mo yung previous terms. So, let's have an example for the recursive form of a sequence. So, let's consider example number 4. Find the next two terms of the sequence 3, 7, 15, 31, 63, and so on, then write it in recursive form. Okay. So, dalawa yung kailangan natin sagutin dito. That is the recursive form of this sequence and then the next two terms of this sequence. Okay? So, the first thing to answer this problem is by looking at the given sequence. We have the first term, which is, we denote this by a sub 1 is equal to 3. Our a sub 2, or the second term, is 7. Our third term, which is can be denoted by a sub 3, is equal to 15. Our fourth term, which is a sub 4, is equal to 31. Our a sub 5, which is 63. Now, still, we're talking about sequences here. Okay? We must look for a pattern in this sequence. Okay? Kasi di ba sabi natin, ang sequence kailangan may pattern na fina-follow or sinusunod. Okay? So ano kaya yung mga possible na pattern? Or ano yung pattern mismo nitong given sequence? Kung titignan nyo mabuti, si 7, which is the second term, okay? Our second term, which is 7, I can rewrite this as 3 times 2 plus 1. Okay. Now, but 3 here, in relation to our sequence, is our a sub 1. So, meaning I can rewrite this as a sub 1 times 2 plus 1. Now, if you're going to take a look at a sub 3 is equal to 15, which I can rewrite 15 as 7 times 2 plus 1. Okay? And 7, in relation to our sequence, is a sub 2. Meaning I can rewrite this as a sub 2 times 2 plus 1. Next, a sub 4, which is 31, I can rewrite this as 15 times 2 plus 1. But 15 can be replaced by a sub 3, meaning I can rewrite this as a sub 3 times 2 plus 1. Siguro nakikita nyo na kung ano yung pattern, no? And then the last one, a sub 5 is equal to 63, which can be written as 31 times 2 plus 1. And 31, as we all know, is our a sub 4 times 2 plus 1. Okay? So, nakikita nyo yung pattern na para makuha mo to, yung susunod na term, kailangan mong i-multiply by 2 yung previous and then mag-add ka ng 1. And this is now the pattern of the sequence. If you're going to continue, okay, continue this up to a sub n, n meaning the last term of the sequence, we are using a sub n to denote the last term kasi we do not know kung ano yung number. Okay? Na malay mo 32 or 100, 'di ba? So to be more general, it is denoted by a sub n. Now, how do we find for the value of a sub n? If you're going to take a look at the relationship of a sub 2 here and a sub 1, okay? A sub 3 and a sub 2. A sub 1 is our first term, a sub 2 is our second term. So in order for us to get the value of a sub 2, what do? Is we multiply 2 to the previous term, which is a sub 1. Going back to a sub n, what is the previous term of or the term before a sub n? That is a sub n minus 1. So in order for us to get the value of a sub n, we're going to consider the term before a sub n, which is a sub n minus 1. We multiply this by 2 and we add 1. And this is now the recursive form of our sequence. Okay? Now, using this recursive form or this recursive formula, we can be able to find for the next two terms. Ano ba yung next two terms natin? We have a sub 6 and then we have a sub 7. Okay? So, using now the recursive form, we have a sub n, which is equal to a sub n minus 1 times 2 plus 1. Okay? Since we're looking for a sub 6, we're going to let n be equal to 6. Meaning we're going to have a sub 6 is equal to a sub 6 minus 1 times 2 plus 1. But a sub 6 minus 1 is a sub 5. Multiply this by 2 plus 1. We already have a value for a sub 5 and that is 63. So 63 times 2 plus 1, this will give us this is 126 plus 1, 127. Okay? So we now have this sixth term, which is 127. Next, for the seventh term, we're going to consider the value of n, which is equal to 7. Meaning we're looking for a sub 7 is equal to the previous term, which is a sub 7 minus 1, which is a sub 6. Multiply this by 2 plus 1. A sub 6 is 127. Multiply this by 2. Add 1. 2 times 127 will give us 254. Plus 1, this will give us 255. Meaning the seventh term of this sequence is 255. So that's it. Be able to find for the recursive form of the sequence as well as the last two terms, which are 127 and 255. So other than the recursive form, we also have another form of a sequence, and we call this as the explicit form of a sequence. So kung doon sa recursive form ng sequence ay kailangan merong preceding term. Okay? Dito naman sa explicit form, hindi na kakailanganin ng preceding term. Okay? So, yun ang kaibahan ng recursive form sa explicit form ng sequence. Tatandaan na kapag sa recursive form, kailangan ng preceding term. So, ano ba yung definition natin ng explicit? So, explicit form of a sequence can also be expressed in a form in which a preceding term is not necessary to find the succeeding terms. This explicit form can be used to find a term of the sequence by determining its position. So ito naman nakadepende sa position. Kung pang ilang term ba siya, kung pang second, pang third, or first, or 10th position yung hinahanap natin na term, mahanap mo using the explicit form of a sequence. So, to demonstrate the explicit form of a sequence, we're going to consider this example, and this will be our example number 5. Determine the next two terms of the sequence 3, 5, 9, 17, 33, and so on. Then write the explicit form of a sequence. So just like the previous example that we have, meron tayong dalawang kailangan sagutin dito. The first one is to find for the explicit form of the sequence, and then the second one is to determine the next two terms of this given sequence. So let's consider example number 5. Just like the previous one, we're going to consider the given sequence. In the given sequence, our first term, which we can denote by a sub 1, is equal to 3. Our a sub 2, which is equal to 5. A sub 3 is equal to 9. Our fourth term, which is a sub 4, is equal to 17. A sub 5, the fifth term, which is equal to 33. Okay? Now, take note that in the definition of the explicit form, it is the terms here are being determined by their position. So, napakahalaga ng mga subscript na to. Okay? Take note that this is the first term, second term, this is the third term, fourth, and then fifth. Okay? So, I'm going to make a table, okay, having the relationship of the terms and then the position of the terms in the sequence. So let us consider this table. So on the first column, I'm going to have n, which will denote the position of the terms in the sequence. And then below it is our a sub n, which will denote the value in that specific possession or term. So if I'm going to represent n as 1, meaning I'm looking for the value of a sub 1, and that is equal to 3. If I let n be equal to 2, then that means I'm looking for the value of a sub 2, that is 5. Completing the table, 3, which is corresponds to 9, 4, which corresponds to 17, and then we have 5, which corresponds to 33. So we have this table. Okay, the next thing that we need to do is we must look for the pattern, okay, with this, the value of a sub n to their position. Kailangan natin maging creative dito, no? Kailangan ma-relate natin yung 3 kay 1, si 5 kay 2, si 9 kay 3. Kailangan ma-relate natin sila para mahanap natin yung pattern nitong sequence na to. So, since we have a sub 1, which is equal to 3, as we all know, 3 can be written as 2 plus 1, right? Okay. A sub 2, which is equal to 5, can be written as 4 plus 1. But 4, I can rewrite 4 as 2 squared plus 1. Actually, I can rewrite 2 as 2 raised to 1. Or simply, I will put 1 here. Okay? Now, how about a sub 3, which is 9? A sub 3, which is equal to 9, is equal to 8 plus 1, which we can rewrite this by rewriting 8 as 2 cubed plus 1. A sub 4, which is equal to 17, is equal to 16 plus 1. And 16, as we all know, that is equivalent to 2 raised to 4 plus 1. And then, the last term that we have, which is the fifth term, 33 is equal to 32 plus 1. And 32 can be expressed as 2 raised to 5. And then, we copy the plus 1. So, just by looking at this, what can you observe with the subscript of the terms that represent the terms and then the exponent of 2 here? They are the same. So we have 1 here and then 1 din dito. Then for a sub 2, we also raise 2 to 2. For a sub 3, we raise 2 to 3. So the same yung subscript na to at saka yung exponent nito dito. Tama? So, if you're going to continue, okay, continue this up to a sub n. Si a sub n, yung last term no, no? Hindi natin alam kung ano yung value ni n na yon. But, since we already have the relationship of the subscript and then the exponent of the base 2 here, we can look for a sub n just by raising 2 to the exponent n and then adding 1. So this is now actually the explicit form of the given sequence. And ito yung gagamitin natin to be able to find for the next two terms. Ano ba yung next two terms na hinahanap? That is a sub 6 and then a sub 7. So, since we already know the explicit form of the given sequence, madali na lang. Papalitan na lang natin si n dito by 6 and then by 7. So, if n is equal to 6, then what do we have? A sub 6 is equal to 2 raised to 6 plus 1. But what is 2 raised to 6? Okay, so 2 raised to 6 is 64 plus 1, meaning we have 65 as our sixth term. Okay? But if n is equal to 7, that means we will have a sub 7 is equal to 2 raised to 7 plus 1. And as we all know, 2 raised to 7 will give us 128. Plus 1, we're going to have 129. And this is now the last or the next two terms of the given sequence, which are 65 and 129. Okay?
Thank you for watching! Don't forget to click the notification bell and subscribe button para updated ka sa mga videos ko.